Chapter 3: Gender Blasphemy and the School of Hard Chops. One of the most alarming aspects of gender identity is that it has so quickly become a state religion in neoliberal countries. People are now literally being thrown in jail for a crime that essentially amounts to gender blasphemy.
For shame!
The trial will take place. The High Sparrow will be presenting a substantial case against you.
Oh yeah? The charges?
Misgendering, cisgendering, kink misremembering, and of course, Blixflendering.
Blixflendering?
Toxic Blixflendering, Your Grace.
The idea that the gender spectrum is even more feminist than all that feminism that was actually done by women is a particularly bizarre idea because the Western medicalized concept of gender was founded in such obviously suspect circumstances. Unfortunately, this origin story is either not well known or not well understood. So this is the story that we will tell today. Our tale of woe begins in 1952 when Dr. John Money graduated from Harvard University. For all intents and purposes, he would become the capitalist system's expert in intersex conditions. However, it was still 1952, and they were using the term hermaphrodite just to provide a bit of context as to what expert meant at the time. But nonetheless, with whatever expertise he had, Harvard-educated, straight white male Dr. John Money decided to take it upon himself to use cosmetic surgery to alter the genitals of intersex babies. This was done under the uncomfortably Nazi-like assumption that this was the most humane thing to do at the time. John Money had identified a population as socially messy, and he was determined to tidy them with his scalpel. You see, ever since back in the days where a wife was little more than one of the cows that happened to be owned by a man, the male monkey had learned that when babies shoot out of the magic portal, they must be put in one of two boxes. In one box, the baby gets trained to be a person, which, under early patriarchy, is a farmer. The babies in the other box are trained to be cows. It had nothing to do with the inherent personality traits of either sex. It had to do with the fact that new humans only come out of females. As commonplace as the belief is today, the idea that females are inherently compelled to perform femininity, i.e. their cow training, only became socially necessary when society needed to intellectually justify patriarchy. However, in the initial phases, there was probably no more intellectual justification for farming a woman than there was for farming an ox. They had been trapped, that is the justification. They are beasts of burden. It's only when society wants to see itself as more enlightened than those that employ open slavery that it becomes necessary for an ideology to say that these boxes are not the outgrowth of an economic system, but instead are the product of innate preferences, what today would be called a gender identity. As the cutting edge of patriarchal rhetoric, queer politics has condensed this notion into one word, which they call cis. Many women are uncomfortable with the notion of cis because it requires accepting that they are innately compelled to fulfill their cow training. The problem is that this is no accident. The idea of trans is meaningless without cis. Queer theory and bourgeois feminism is just as invested in the idea that women are compelled to fulfill their cow training as the most reactionary patriarchs. The ostensibly revolutionary act of Money and his ilk is ultimately to haggle over the distribution. The burning question seems to be, are all women cows, or are women a spectrum from cow to farmer? But still, mostly cow. The possibilities are endless. John Money was the patriarchy being forced to face the fact that it had ignored a section of the population which it could no longer simply abandon. The experiments done on intersex children were considered humane because patriarchy doesn't recognize humanity outside these boxes. Therefore, cutting an unconsenting infant who appears to exist outside them wasn't considered harmful because they were seen as being effectively worse than dead already. We are taken to an imaginary scene where John Money addresses the upper echelons of the patriarchy. Greetings, gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for being here. As you know, Operation Ooh Yuck has identified an anomaly in the patriarchy. They are called intersex. All we know about them is they make all God-fearing Americans feel yucky. From that creepy rape monkey, hey, to the techno-fascist singularity itself. Everyone understands the magnitude of this crisis.